to the Finance and Operations Committee virtual meeting for January 26, 2021. During this unprecedented time, while social distancing requirements are in place, the Upper Darby School District needs to continue certain aspects of its business, which includes decisions concerning pandemic planning. For this reason, the Upper Darby School District will continue regularly scheduled school board meetings while pandemic-related restrictions imposed by Governor Wolf and any local authorities are still in place. It is the plan of the school board to hold these meetings with the minimum required departures from normal operating procedures. The Upper Darby School District School Board COVID-19 Special Operating Procedures document outlines expected departures from those normal operating procedures and the policy justification for such departures. At the start of each board committee meeting held while pandemic-related restrictions are in place, the board will review the departures from normal operating procedures as well as their justifications. While social distancing requirements are in place, the Upper Darby School Board finds it necessary to hold virtual school board and school board committee meetings to complete required business. These virtual meetings will allow for public viewing and participation. Following practices already in place for regular meetings, all virtual school board meetings, in addition to allowing near real-time public viewing and participation, will be recorded and the recordings made available after the meeting. In order to hold virtual school board meetings, adjustments need to be made following existing board policy. These adjustments have been outlined in the Upper Darby School District School Board COVID-19 Special Operating Procedures. Dr. McGarry, can you give us more information about participation in tonight's meeting?
Yes, Board President Brown, thank you for making it here this evening. Just for clarity to the public, we apologize. We had a meeting prior to this, and that's what pushed back our starting time, and that's why the majority of the school board is also at home. We're still practicing social distancing guidelines, and I know the board would love to be here in person, and I appreciate Board President Brown at home and then racing back over here tonight to be here, and I appreciate the board for the meeting prior to this and what we're doing now. But as Board President Brown said, we're making every effort, even during this pandemic, to encourage participation. Tonight during our committee meetings, we'll start with our finance and operations. You could certainly provide a comment or a question by sending an email to committeequestions@upperdarbysd.org or phoning it in at 610-789-7200, extension 2000. If you use either resource to provide your comment or question, please make sure you leave your name and your address. And perhaps one of the most important aspects when you do provide your comment, please make sure you tell us the specific agenda item in your communication that you'd like to comment or question. That way we can make sure that we make it part of our record and we provide you the best answer that we can. Board President Brown, I'll update as we go forward, but I know we have an effort to get out of here with some alacrity and speed.
Thank you very much, Dr. McGarry. The meeting of the Finance and Operations Committee will please come to order. Roll call. I think we did a roll call. Do we have to do that again, Mr. Rogers?
Yes, because we changed formats of the meeting from the Zoom over to the Google Meet. So
Got it. So for roll call, please, sir.
Dr. Haig,
I am present and I can hear the proceedings.
Mr. Desnoyers,
I am present and I can hear the proceedings.
Mr. Warsavage,
I am present and can hear the proceedings.
Mr. Neal,
David Neal, I am present and can hear the proceedings.
Mrs. Dawes,
I am present and I can hear the proceedings.
Mr. Fields,
I am present and I can hear the proceedings.
Mrs. Mitchell,
I am present and I can hear the proceedings.
Mrs. Curry,
I am present and I can hear the proceedings.
Mr. Brown.
Present. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. The following motion shall be applicable for tonight's committee meetings. Policy 003 allows the board to suspend policies or parts of policies when appropriate. Therefore, due to the current ongoing crisis, I make the following motions to suspend language in two of the board's policies until the next regularly scheduled meeting. Policy 006.1, which regulates attendance at meetings via electronic communications, I move to suspend the language requiring board members to be present. Specifically, the language would be, a majority of board members shall be physically present at a board meeting when a board member attends through electronic communications. And Policy 006, which governs other requirements of board meetings, I move the suspension of language requiring that those members of the public wishing to participate be present. Specifically, the language in this section titled Public Participation would remove the words that read, present at a board meeting. Do I have a second?
Second, Mrs. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mrs. Mitchell. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, please state your name for the record. Anyone abstaining, please state your name for the record. The motion carries. I will now turn over the Finance and Operations Committee meeting to my co-chair, Mr. Fields.
Thank you, Board President Brown. Mr. Rogers, please begin with an overview of your agenda items for this evening.
Sure. Tonight we have 3 agenda items, 1 board action and 2 informational. The first agenda item is a middle school athletic field and track renovation update. The district has been researching our ability and what it would cost to actually complete middle school turf fields and track renovations at both middle schools. Tonight, Mr. Marvin Lee will present an update, and actually, this item is board action because we're recommending moving forward with a design and engineering company to start going through what's called the pre-construction phase. Second up is the vendor fair update, which is informational. Last month, we presented on the idea of the vendor fair for the 2nd year in a row. Tonight, Marvin will simply provide an update of the who attended and the results of the vendor fair. Third is also informational. It's the potential bond refinancing. We will provide an update on the potential option to have a bond refinancing, which would allow us to refinance 2 bonds into a bank loan. So if you don't mind, we'll jump right into agenda item number 1, and I'll turn it right over to Mr. Lee.
Sounds great.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Good evening, everybody. My name is Marvin Lee. I'm the Controller of Operations for the Upper Darby School District, and thank you so much for the opportunity to present tonight. Our first presentation is about the middle school athletic field and track update. The board action is required for this item. At the end of the presentation, I will be asking the board to consider awarding a contract to a qualified firm to handle pre-construction work in the next board meeting on February 9, 2021. Last year, Upper Darby School District made a major investment in the field and track renovation project at the high school. I'm happy to let you know that Upper Darby's track and field renovation project was recognized by American Sports Building Association as a distinguished single field facility last year. We've got an award for our job last year. The Upper Darby School District is committed to continue investing in our existing buildings, including our athletic facilities. Tonight, I'm happy to inform you that the administration has started working on renovating the field and track at Beverly Hills Middle and Drexel Hill Middle School. Beverly Hills Middle School was built in 1930, and the Drexel Hill Middle School was built in 1957. The district may have invested some money here and there to renovate our field and track, but it is probably the first time that we are making a major investment to completely overhaul the athletic facilities in those schools. As you can see in the pictures, we offer less than desirable athletic facilities to our students. The picture on the left is Beverly Hills. The picture on the right is Drexel Hill. The project is to improve the sites and provide better facilities for our students and communities. We do not have the full specifications to share at this time because we just started the process. However, there are some key features and considerations that we will take into account when designing the field and track. At Beverly Hills, we will renovate both front and back field. Not only one field, but we will be renovating both front and back field. And we do have 2 separate fields at Beverly Hills. However, the spaces are relatively tight for regulation site athletic field and track. So we will work with our engineers and the administration to come up with the best possible solution for Beverly Hills Middle School. And also at Beverly Hills, we are reviewing 2 separate options. Number 1, either front field and back track, or front track, back field. The dimension of the space and the construction cost will determine what the best option is for Beverly Hills. At Drexel Hill, we have plenty of space to have both regulation-sized athletic turf field and 6-lane 400-meter track. And other options we will be thinking about will be lighting, grandstand, fencing around the perimeters, scoreboard, public announcement system, and we will also build a venue with the various public access options in mind. In next slide, I will show you potential outcomes of the project. But nothing is set in stone at this time. So we are showing an architectural design from the first cut, and nothing is set in stone at this time. This version has an athletic field in front and the track in the back. You see in the middle, that's the Beverly Hills Middle School, and right-hand side, the Garrett Road. The designer, if you see the pictures, also came up with an idea of moving the parking space up to the top to make the regulation size field up front. As it is presented, it is a regulation size field. You will be able to play football, soccer, lacrosse, and field hockey. And we have the track in the back. We are targeting for 6-lane, 300-meter track. We have a strong track team in Beverly Hills, and we would like to provide an athletic facility that our student athletes deserve and are proud of. The middle part of the track will be reseeded with a natural grass, and it will take several months to establish the grass in the middle, but it will be beautiful when it's fully completed. So in Beverly Hills, we're thinking about regulation size turf field and 6-lane, 300-meter track. At Drexel Hill, we have much more space to work with. The space is big enough to hold a regulation size turf field and 6-lane, 400-meter track around it. By the way, at the minimum 6-lane and 400 track is a regulation size. That's the regulation size track. Gold track with a purple accent and the multi-purpose synthetic turf field will be provided as well at the Drexel Hill Middle School. I think both options are great for our schools and looks beautiful too. So I'm going to be talking about the timeline. The administration has been reviewing different options and companies since mid-December. At this evening, we will be asking the board to consider awarding a contract to a qualified firm to perform pre-construction duties in our next board meeting. Once the board approves the pre-construction contract, it will take approximately 15 weeks to complete the pre-construction work. That will include design and engineering, surveying, and permitting. After specs are fully built, we will be inviting multiple qualified companies for the pricing offers, and we will come back to the board asking for the approval of the contract of the construction company with the lowest responsible price. After the construction award, we expect the construction period to take approximately 26 weeks to complete the job, and that's for both schools. Anticipated construction completion timeline is late November 2021. We're very excited to work on this project for our students and communities. Thank you for your time. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Marvin, for your presentation. A question and a comment. I'll have my comment first. I think after these fields are done, I think we're going to be ready to put in a bid for the Olympics because we are going to have some amazing fields here that we could maybe partner with University of Penn and maybe do a joint bid. So let's look out for that in the future. And then at Beverly Hills, I noticed on the one campus map, you had courtyard improvements. Could you describe what you're looking into for that courtyard?
So Marvin snuck this one in here creatively, and nice catch, Mr. Neal. We are actually exploring the idea of renovating both courtyards at both sites as outdoor classrooms that would fall into the potential funding that's coming up that we've discussed recently, the new stimulus funding, the second round of ESSER funds. We believe that in Beverly Hills' case, we may be able to actually turf the courtyard, which would allow it to be used almost year-round, so long as it's not, pouring rain or snows on the ground. At Drexel Hill, we have a different plan. There's beautiful slate that lines the courtyard at Drexel Hill. We're looking into leveling that slate and cleaning it up so that it is also usable year-round. So that's where that comes from.
Okay, thank you.
If you could just say a few words, you started to talk about how the interior, the courtyard could be funded by some of these stimulus funds, but the funding for the rest of this, can you just say a little bit about what that's coming from?
So same as the courtyard, we are going to try and take the stance that this will be considered outdoor classroom space. We believe, and we're in the very early stages of looking into this. We obviously just found out about the new ESSER funds recently, but we do believe beyond just an athletic, an ad for our athletic programs, there is a ton of added value that our PE teachers and even any other teachers that would like to get outside and be able to hold a classroom outdoors, this would afford them the ability to use the turf field practically all year round. So we're looking at into the viability of actually using the ESSER funds. That aside, we had this in a plan. I believe Dr. McGarry could attest to it probably 3 years ago when we started the high school field. We had planned to move on to the middle schools as well. So we have the ability to include this into our budget. We have funds available in the capital reserve, and we're evaluating overall where we stand budgetarily in the current year, moving to the next year to be able to push these projects forward. And Dr. McGarry, I believe, got an additional comment.
In February of 2019, under the facilities update, the exact date is February 26, 2019. At that time, we had considered this as part of a phase one project that financially at that time, with everything we had going on, it became difficult to pull off. But in that process, we talked about new track and new field at Beverly Hills and Drexel Hill Middle School. I think it was lost a little bit that night because that was the same exact night we were holding conversations about Clifton Heights and Aronimink.
Thanks. I just wanted to make sure the public was aware of that. Thank you.
Just real quick, I just want to say thank you for getting this proposal to us. And it is going to be an incredible improvement for the community, for both of these communities, the Drexel Hill community and the Upper Darby, Beverly Hills community. So thank you.
This is Mr. Fields. I just want to say, I ran on these tracks close to 35 years ago, and there has been no change in them in 35 years. So reiterating Marvin's point, this is long overdue, these updates, and I am really glad that we are doing them. Close to 35 years ago, I'll say again. Yep, bye.
If there are no more questions, Mr. Fields, do you mind if we move into our next agenda item?
You're on automatic. Keep going. We're on cruise control now.
All right, thank you. Next up is the vendor fair, and again, Mr. Lee will wow us with his information.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. The next presentation, I'll give you a quick update on the vendor fair that we just had on January 18th, 2021. This presentation is informational. The main theme of the event was that Upper Darby School District is open for business. During the event, we talked about how to work with the Upper Darby School District. We also introduced many upcoming projects in the school district. But the best part of the event was every single participating vendor had an opportunity to share their stories with us. And Mr. Joe McGilvery was giving commentary after every single vendor's introduction, basically encouraging them to work with us. The virtual meeting has its challenges, but it allows you to focus on a single speaker at a time, so it really worked out very well for us at this time. We put a lot of special emphasis on broadening our outreach to vendor community this time. So we will not go over the list of vendors, agencies that we have on the screen, but we reached out to 23 MWBE certifying agencies. It's not 23 vendors. We're talking about 23 MWBE certifying agencies and 3 LGBTQ business associations, 4 local business associations, and also Blue Book Network vendors. So we have a list of, the list that we have on the screen is a solid list that we built through this process, and we will be continuing to use this list in the future. I want to also give you a quick snapshot of the virtual event. The engaging, inviting, and personable were the 3 characteristics of the event. Joe, Tim, and I, and Blue Book representatives were there to represent the Upper Darby School District. Tim and I were manning the questions through the chat. And we also did an exit survey. The participants gave us 9.2 satisfaction rate out of 10. Obviously, the vendors that want to work with us, they're going to give us good rating. But I really feel they were genuinely happy with our performance and our qualifications. We also recorded the event and we made it available on our website. The link is at the bottom of the presentation. Some numbers that I wanted to share with you. 80 was the number of vendors that registered for the event, and 66 vendors that actually participated in the event. And 20 out of 66 vendors were MWBE. That means more than 30% of the participants were certified women or minority vendors. And we also had 6 certifying agencies represented at the meeting. Our procurement office is getting a lot of calls and emails after the event, and we had a great time with our vendors, and we are looking forward to cultivating the relationship with our vendors. This concludes my presentation, and thank you so much. I'll take any questions.
Just had a quick question. Can you put that last slide back up? 20 MWBEs participated in the last vendor fair. How many of those resulted in actual work for the business? I mean, for the district, work with the district?
We don't have the stats, but we can find out about that.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I just want to add, Ed, the meeting occurred on the 18th.
18th.
I believe Joe McGilvery is already in contact with many of them to start facilitating future work. So that, I think that's probably an added data point that we can track, so that when we give this update on an annual basis, to be able to report back the successful implementation of this process and then finalizing it by actually seeing the work through.
Thanks. I'm sorry. I guess I should have said for the last time we did this. So thanks, sir.
It's real quick. I wanted to thank the administration for doubling back and reaching out to the LGBTQ oriented businesses. From before, I was just curious, how many of them actually participated in the event?
I don't believe we have any vendors from LGBTQ community actually participate in the event. But we didn't have much time to reach out to those vendors at this time, but in the future, we will be actively reaching out to those so they can be participating in our events.
Could I make a special request to be involved when you do reach out to some of those communities? I might have some insight there that could be of use to our school district.
Absolutely.
Damien, I'll just add too, because I believe in my follow-up with Mr. McGilvery following the meeting, I do actually believe there's representation at at Blue Book, and also the agencies we've reached out to, but I'm not positive, and we can double check the number of actual vendors or contractors that identified during the meeting. But there were representation from the association side.
Thank you for letting us know.
If there are no more comments or questions, let's go to the next piece.
So next up, we have the 2021 Potential Bond Refinancing, which is an informational update. So we'll just quickly run through. We have been, as we always are, looking for any opportunity to save the district money and improve our budget situation. We have come to the conclusion that we actually have 2 bonds that are eligible for refinancing at the current moment. Our general obligation bond, that's what GOB stands for, General Obligation Bond, 2012 and 2014. Both will expire by the end of the school year of June 30th of 2024. We also will go through and talk about, again, historically low interest rates, which affords us this opportunity, and then what a refinancing to a bank loan and what that actually means. And it's indicative of upon the expiration of the 2 bonds we're identifying here. So when you can see here, and these are excerpts from previous presentations that we've done on bond updates when we were going through the 2020 bond issuance. So you can see in column 14 and 15 that are highlighted, and also that, as you see there, the final payments are due by the end of the school year of 2024. So those are the 2 that are eligible. The reason why this is coming up is, again, interest rates are at an all-time low. What's more specific is the idea of refinancing typically is a general obligation bond refinanced to a general obligation bond. Similar to refinancing your mortgage, you typically refinance to another mortgage, just a lower interest rate. When you have these 2 bonds that only have a couple years left, they actually are considered eligible for a bank loan, which is somewhat of a short-term loan. So right now, we have our finance team out researching, and it doesn't cost the district any money. We're trying to price out where the interest rates could be. And so long as the interest rates come back favorably, we have the opportunity to save money over the course of the next 3 to 4 years by lowering the total amount to be paid during that term. So this slide here represents what would be indicative of a 0.85 interest rate, because right now our RBC Capital Markets is projecting that we will get sub 1% interest rates. We'll have two options, the blue or column 1 or red column 2. The only difference there is shifting our payments around. In column 2, if we move the payment date up slightly so that the final maturity is in November versus February, we will save an additional, in this scenario at 0.85%, an additional roughly $14,000. So in either case, you're looking at anywhere from $60,000 to $75,000, and that's at a conservative rate, from what I've been advised, of a 0.85%. So there's a potential for a little bit more savings, but we want to display to the public and the board that we're doing our best to find every avenue to save in upcoming budgets for the next, as always. So are there any questions from the board at this time?
Yes, I would just like to thank you and your team for looking into this. This is, something that could takes some knowledge to recognize the opportunity, and I appreciate the fact you and your team are looking for ways to save the district money.
So if we don't have any other questions, Mr. Fields, would you like me to review my agenda?
At this, yes. Actually,
I'm sorry, public comments.
At this time, are there any public comments? And I think I'm going to hear a no on the public comments.
There are no public comments.
Fantastic. Mr. Rogers, will you review the agenda items presented this evening?
So again, agenda item number 1, the middle school athletic field and turf renovation update, which would require board action. We're asking the board to move this forward to the February board meeting to vote on the pre-construction phase and approve a vendor to provide that.
Okay, can I get a get agreement from the board on that? I think that's just
Yeah.
yes.
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 Okay. Do you want to go through the rest of the agenda, or are we good?
Sure. Again, the vendor fair was informational. We just ran through that. Again, we just gave an update on the January 18th vendor fair. And I'll add as well to Mr. Brown's comment, I will look into last year's attendees and see if we track that through. If not, we will absolutely do it this year. The final item was the potential bond refinancing, which again is informational, and we're looking at refinancing 2 bonds into 1 single bank loan.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Board President Brown, I hand it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fields. A motion is in order for the adjournment of the Finance and Operations Committee meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Bye.
Aye.
Meeting
Aye.
adjourned. Oh, sorry. Meeting adjourned.